Hey, everybody. So we're trying something a little bit new. We know that recently there's a change at DCFS that now you only have to have six continuing education hours to maintain your foster license. And we want to be able to bring those to you as effectively, but also as efficiently as possible. So one of the things we've always prided ourselves on at 366 Gathering is the content that we bring, because we feel like we've got a pretty good connection with what foster parents need. You guys are always really helpful in your feedback with sharing with us maybe some class topic ideas or things that would actually be useful to you as far as information goes. So we want to be able to still consistently do that for you. You might notice that we've made a few changes, like our classes are only an hour long now rather than 2 hours long. And so we've made a few changes to adjust to the new requirements. One of the things that we want to try is try just a video. And what we're going to do is we're going to leave this link open for 1 week. And at the end of this video, there will be a slide with a website for you to go to on our 366 Gathering page. And you'll take a short little quiz. And then once we receive your quiz back, we'll send you an email for your evaluation, and you'll fill out the evaluation like you normally do. And then we'll send you your CEU. So we're going to give this a shot, and we're going to see if this is effective. And especially whenever you're giving feedback, let us know, hey, yeah, this was actually really helpful. Or, no, just kind of do the live format was more effective. So again, we'll just kind of see what happens here. What I want to talk about tonight is a really, I would say, incredibly important topic when it comes to foster care, and that is helping our kids build resilience. When you read through any kind of material, any kind of book, research, clinical information on children who have experienced trauma, how they deal with the trauma, how they process it, how they move through it, what happens to them 10, 20, 30 years down the road, has a lot to do with how much resilience they have. In large part, how much resilience they have when the hardship or when the trauma occurs, but then also how much resilience they have in the processing of it. And so what I want to do tonight is I want to go through, there's a famous study. I don't even know if you call it a study, but it's a theory. It's called Buzanell's theory of resilience. And we're going to go through Buzanell's theory of resilience and the 5 factors that contribute to resilience, and specifically how those relate to foster care. So that's what I want to do this evening. And then again, at the end of this, there will be a link, a slide with a link to our 366 Gathering page. You probably won't be able to click that link. You're just going to need to read it and then type that into your URL. We're not fancy enough yet for you to be able to just click it. However, whenever you complete that quiz, like I said, you'll get an email with a link to an evaluation, and your CEU will be ready. So hopefully all of that makes sense. And obviously, if you ever have any questions, just shoot us an email and we'll take care of that. So all of that to say, let's go ahead and jump in and get started here. Bingo. I did not. Christina Jones just asked if I stopped my presentation. It is quite the opposite. I am really getting it going now. So we're going to talk about building resilience. And resilience is the ability to bounce back after hardship. So children in foster care experience a great deal of hardships that most children never have to navigate, and therefore they require additional intentional interventions to help them overcome disruption and loss. And so this presentation is based off of Buzanell's theory of resilience, as I mentioned earlier, which includes these 5 principles. And as I tell you these 5 principles, I'm going to see if I can do a little something fancy here with my camera, and maybe you can see me a little bit better while we talk. I don't know if that did anything or not, but we're going to find out. All right. So first is crafting normalcy. That's going to be the first one that we discuss. Maintain rituals and meaning. We're going to talk about identity anchors, reminders of who the child is. And I just realized I'm going to need to slide this up. Sharing resources, lean on support networks. And we'll talk about why that matters in the context of resilience. Employ alternative logistics, so helping to reframe hardships. This isn't minimizing. This isn't what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not being like Pollyanna about it, but it's helping to reframe what's going on. And then similarly, there's a little bit of overlap between these two, but foreground positive emotions, and I'll get into what all of those things mean. But these are the 5 things that we're going to talk about tonight. So if I were going to take a quiz later on something, I might pay attention to these 5 things. I'm not going to tell you how to do school, but these are the 5 things we're talking about. So get ready. All right, so crafting normalcy is the first one. After a tragedy or hardship, people do things like sort through their belongings to recover treasured items or engage in rituals to regain some sense of comfort. Media reports often conclude with things are getting back to normal. And in these accounts, normal is both an ongoing process and a perceived desirable outcome. This is straight from Buzanell's theory. Again, that last line I think is important. In these accounts, normal is both an ongoing process and a perceived desirable outcome. One of the examples that gets used is after a tornado blows through a town. We just had a tornado here a little over a year ago, blow through Little Rock. So after a tornado goes through a town, people are kind of picking up all the debris. They're getting all the pieces put back together. They're trying to find all of their possessions, and they just want things to get back to normal. But if you think about what that actually means, what normal means, it's both how things are proceeding, but it's also something that you obtain. And that's an important thing to keep in mind. I'll get into a little bit more of that here. All right, so normal is, again, a process. It's an ongoing process rather than a fixed state of being. So when it comes to instilling resilience through normalcy in the kiddos in our home, add normal processes where possible. Things that just feel normal to the child. Where they go to school, if you can keep that the same, that's great. That helps a lot with building resilience. Keeping some kind of normal schedule or routine. We'll get into that here in a second. But the process of putting your life together ought to feel as normal as possible. And then also the outcome, though. It's not just the process, but it's also the outcome. Normal is also a desirable outcome, such as how a child feels before, during, and after these processes are carried out. So there's really nothing normal about foster care. There's nothing normal about a stranger pulling up to your house, telling you you need to get in their car with a bag packed with some of your stuff. You drive to a strange office, you sit there and listen to them make phone call after phone call, trying to find another stranger who will take you into their home. There is nothing normal about this. And so doing everything that we can to help them understand the process, but then also understand like, hey, there's a good outcome that could come from this if we can keep our eye on that. And so crafting normalcy, it's both a process and an outcome. Maintaining some rituals, keep as many familiar rituals as possible for the child, such as meal days. Like in our family, we do pizza on Fridays. We do cereal for dinner on Sundays. Hey, if you can find out stuff like that about the kiddos in your home, do that. Help it feel normal. Hey, today's Friday. I think you always have pizza at home. What if we have pizza tonight? Things like that can be very helpful in helping to craft normalcy. Holiday celebrations. How do you always celebrate Christmas? How do you celebrate your birthday? How do you celebrate maybe holidays that our family doesn't celebrate? Let's learn. Let's incorporate those into what we do. And so keeping those rituals going, because as we know, and if you've been in foster care long enough, you already know this, but those kinds of things can be such triggers. The Christmas season can be such a trigger for a kiddo. They start to see the Christmas lights go up. They start to see the trees go up in people's windows. And all of a sudden they're in some deep feelings that they don't really know why they're there. But a lot of times just maintaining some consistent rituals can be helpful if we know what they are. And then also routine kind of goes hand in hand with rituals, but sticking to a routine, a day-to-day routine, can be comforting to children, especially younger children who crave structure in their lives. Most of the kiddos who come in, I say most, I feel like I'm probably right saying that. I don't have evidence to support that, but I would assume that most kiddos coming into foster care are probably living in situations prior to foster care where there is little to no structure. And maybe structure is something that they just crave and that they need. And by providing it, by giving them an idea of, okay, at this time we always wake up, at this time we always eat, at this time we always get in the car to go somewhere, at this time we always do this. Providing routine can really help craft a sense of normalcy to give them a sense of, okay, kind of got some stability. I've got my feet under me, and now I can start to figure out how to move forward. So recognizing it as a process, recognizing that it's also about outcomes, um, keeping as many familiar rituals as possible, and giving some really good structured routine that's going to help craft a sense of normalcy around what has happened. It's all obviously very difficult to do, but that's the first thing in helping to build resilience. All right, number 2 is affirming identity anchors. An identity anchor is a relatively enduring cluster of identity markers. This is very, very wordy, but it's a cluster of identity markers upon which individuals, their families, and their community members rely when explaining who they are for themselves and in relation to each other. So how do you know who you are? If somebody says, "Who are you?" How do you go about saying that? These are your identity anchors. Well, I'm a son, I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm I'm an uncle, I'm a neighbor, I'm an employee, I'm all kinds of things. So affirming and reminding kiddos of those identity anchors are important. Some identity anchors will need to be created for the child because maybe the child is so young that they don't really know who they are. A couple of our kiddos who came into foster care where one of our sons was 3 days old when he came to us from the hospital. And so his identity anchors had to be taught. And sometimes we have to do that. We have to be the ones going about gathering the information so that we can inform them, help them fill in the gaps. Because the more sense that they have of who they are and where they come from, the easier it is to build some resilience because it gives context to their life. I didn't just appear here in these strange people's home one day. I have a place where I come from. I have a place that defines me and informs who I am. I have a video clip I want to show. I think it's the next slide. If it's not, I'll get to it now. But it's from the movie Antoine Fisher. And if you've never seen that, I would really encourage you to watch it because it's a movie about a young man who grew up with a really difficult childhood. He goes into the Navy. He meets Denzel Washington, which would be wonderful. But Denzel Washington and his character helps Antoine Fisher deal with the rage and the anger and all the explosiveness that he feels. But the way he helps him do it is by getting back in touch with his childhood, getting back in touch with the broken child that still lives inside of him. There's this moment where he reads this beautiful poem about who will cry for the child inside of me. And then at the end of the movie, though, and I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil it, but at the end of the movie, like it all kind of comes back together. He finds out who his extended family is. He finds out he's not alone in the world. And there's this really beautiful scene where he comes back home. So I want to show that. I'm going to minimize my picture here.
Hey, what are you doing? I'm your Uncle Horace.
Get out the way, Horace. Come on, baby. Look at you. I'm your Aunt Etta, baby.
Oh, I'm your cousin Jeanette. Oh, come on. And I'm your Aunt Anna. How you doing, baby?
Oh, my Lord Jesus.
This is my wife, T.
How you doing? Good looking.
I'm your cousin Eddie. My dad named me after your father. This is my brother Ray. What's up, dog? What's cracking, man?
Hey, y'all, I'm your cousin Jason, man. What's love?
All right, boys, open up.
Welcome All right.
Come on,
Nope. All right, hang on. There we go. I love that. I love that clip because it is it's just, it's very powerful. Obviously, such a good movie. Uh, but it's what everybody is really wanting to know, kind of where you belong and who you go with, and especially children who grow up with hardship in their childhood, either through foster care, through adoption, whatever it might be. Affirming those identity anchors is really, really critical. Who they are biologically, who they are emotionally, who they are relationally, and community, and everything is really important. Biology is a really great place to start. A child must be reminded of where they come from, who their family of origin is, their birth order, siblings, genetics, etc. We're sort of fortunate in our family because none of our adopted kids have the same skin color as we do, so it's real obvious that they did not come from Christina and me. And so those conversations have been pretty clear and, and forthcoming since they could verbalize any questions they might have. And so we've been fortunate enough to be able to be really open with them about who they are, where they come from. They actually have good relationships or growing relationships with their birth families and biological families. And having that is really a blessing for them. And if you're able to provide that for kiddos, our experience has been really positive in that, because that identity anchor affirming that, yes, you are in our family, but you didn't come from our family. There's a place that you do come from that informs so much of who you are. That contributes so much to their sense of resilience and their ability to just have their feet underneath them and start figuring things out. Sociology. Who and what comprise the child's community, their extended family, their friends, their neighborhood, their religion, etc. Being able to affirm that in them, even if they're very young, even if maybe their identity is not fully formed, not even close to being fully formed, but recognizing that that's what they know and that that's how they see themselves, affirming that and acknowledging that. Reminding them of maybe friends that they had in their neighborhood, reminding them of aunts and uncles and cousins, grandparents, maybe a faith tradition or a religious tradition that they grew up in. Being able to provide that information, especially for children who may not know it, helping them to provide it can contribute significantly to their ability to be resilient. Nope, wrong button. There we go. Culture. What elements of the child's culture will they need reminding of? Simple things like food, profound things like history, language, entertainment, etc. What is it that the culture that they're not in now? What would their life be like if they were still in that? And if possible, if and when possible, submerging them in that. Submerging was the wrong word. Immersing them into that culture is really, really healthy and helpful, even if they're very uncomfortable, even if they show up and they're like, oh, this doesn't feel familiar at all. But letting them know, hey, this is part of the world that you come from. This is part of the culture of your heritage. That can contribute so much to their ability to be resilient. And then finally, individuality. Help the child rediscover their personality apart from hardship, including interests, hobbies, humor, preferences, style, etc. Man, foster, and I was about to label them foster kids. Children who are in foster care carry that label with them, even if it doesn't get talked about, even if like friends at school don't even know, that label gets stuck on them and they carry it around with them. Even adopted kiddos can carry that label around. Again, I mentioned our kiddos are all of a different skin color than Christina and I are. They will never get away from that as long as they're part of our family. And so I just realized I misspelled that word, individuality. Oh, no, I did individuality. Sorry, sidebar. But helping them reclaim their individuality. Who are you? Not what is your story, not what's it like being a foster kid, not what's it like being adopted, but who are you? Who is the enduring part of you that continues, that was there before this happened, that's there now, that will continue after this happened? Who are you? Your true, undying self. Who is that? Helping your child discover their identity apart from their label as a child in foster care will go so far toward building resilience. So far we have the first two, crafting normalcy and affirming identity anchors. So those are the first two. Let's jump to number 3, the sharing of resources. This one sounds a little odd, and it's one to me that I was surprised whenever I first started learning about the theory of resilience, that sharing resources would be part of it. And in the world of foster care, I think it plays out a little bit differently than maybe it would in like, because again, a lot of this is about maybe after a natural disaster, something cataclysmic goes down, and your house just got torn to pieces, and you've got some neighbors that have, like, one neighbor has a generator, one neighbor has some food, one neighbor has some clothes, and you start tapping into those resources, and that can be a way of building and increasing resilience, because hey, I don't have to do all of this on my own. But this also applies really well, I think, to the world of foster care and the world of adoption. So assisting a child with resilience building does not have to be a 1 or 2 person job, and it's certainly not the child's job to do it all by themselves. So lean heavily on the people, institutions, and stakeholders in the child's life to help the child build resolve and a will to continuously move forward. And so that can look like a lot of things in foster care and in the world of adoption. But here are just a few of what that might look like. The bio family. So when appropriate and safe, letting the bio family communicate with the child can help tremendously, especially if they are in agreement that, hey, you're where you need to be. We wish that it wasn't happening this way, but we want you to be where you are. We want you to do well. We want you to make good grades in school. We want you to be respectful to your foster parents. Those kinds of words and those kinds of affirming messages from biofamily can be really, really impactful, especially as it applies to building resilience. But again, that also taps back into the previous idea of affirming identity anchors. When those identity anchors are also the ones helping them navigate this, that can be really, really powerful and impactful. So leaning on the bio family when possible. That was one of the things that I'll brag on Christina. She was always really good about. Anytime we would intersect with birth moms is typically what it was. From time to time, a bio dad would be there, but for the most part, it was the bio moms. But also in our latest adoption, it was bio grandmother, bio aunts, bio uncles. And she's always been really good about asking questions and letting them fill in gaps, letting them be the expert on their kids, and then sharing information so that they know what's going on with their children. But that also helped us a lot by understanding a lot more about their background, a lot more about their history. That helps us be able to fill in the gaps for our kids whenever they ask and when they have questions. So sharing that resource can be really effective if, again, when it's appropriate and safe to do so. CASA, we've had CASA workers on 366 Gathering classes in the past, and we're really big fans of them. We've had really positive experience with CASA workers. And in fact, our CASA worker from our last adoption, we're still friends with her on Facebook, and she loves all the pictures that she sees of the kiddos. And that was a really neat relationship. But she was tremendous because her whole job, if you're not sure what CASA does, their whole job, it's court appointed. I got that wrong. Child, anyway, I'm butchering it. Okay, I'm not even going to try. I don't remember what CASA stands for. Court-appointed special advocate. Christina just hollered from the other room. Court-appointed special advocate. I had child and court both as the letter C. So I'm turning bright red here. All right. So a court-appointed special advocate worker is assigned to foster. They get assigned to foster cases and are dedicated solely to the well-being of the child. So definitely use them and lean heavily on them, because when they are doing their job well, they are an advocate and a strong one for the kids, not just in court, but also for resources, also for helping to find out maybe some of the history that's missing. They can work well with caseworkers and resource workers. And so your CASA is going to be a really important resource if you're able to have one. I know not all counties have enough CASAs for every case, but if you're fortunate enough to have one, definitely lean on them as a resource. Counselors and therapists are trained in the art and science of helping children process hardship. So if it's been an especially difficult time or an especially traumatic experience for kiddos, maybe therapy and counseling is appropriate for them and is helpful. Sometimes it can even just be like a school counselor that if they're really good and really well informed with how trauma can play out with kiddos, leaning heavily on them so that the full weight of dealing with and processing all these emotions doesn't fall squarely on the child, but it also doesn't fall squarely on you as the foster parent. Lean on those resources because resilience can also be really important for the foster family as well. And then finally, the community, sports leagues, religious communities, school programs, they can all help a child build resilience during hardship. If your kids aren't athletic or if there aren't things just readily available for things that your kiddos are interested in, maybe use that as an opportunity to try something new. Hey, we all as a family are going to go try this thing because none of us have ever done it before. Let's all go learn this together. Let's all be part of this league together. Let's all be part of this organization or community together. Sometimes that can be an added bonus whenever it's something new for the entire family all at the same time. But leaning on those resources that are available in your community. And again, that can also go back to helping the child establish their identity, figuring out that I am more than just a kid in foster care. I'm more than just a kid who was adopted. All right. So we have had crafting normalcy, we have had affirming identity anchors, and we have now had the sharing of resources. So that's 3 down, 2 to go. Alternative logistics, using alternative logistics or accessing alternative logistics. This is another one that was a little bit strange reading it, that it applies to resilience. But if you'll see the little blurb there, foster care is not typical. So alternative logistics is a formal way to say embrace the crazy. Every case is unique. Every child has varying needs. So figure out what works best for the child in your home and be prepared to work outside the lines of normal family behavior in order to accomplish it. So sometimes you just have to sort of MacGyver the situation, for lack of a better term. I grew up watching MacGyver in the 80s. If you don't know what MacGyver is, but sometimes we have to just figure it out on the fly. But sometimes we also have to be willing to let go of what our ideal picture of a good, wholesome family might look like. We have to let go of what we thought our routines would look like. We have to let go of what we thought our extracurricular activities might look like. And we have to get really creative with things. There's another clip showing lots of, or these last 2 clips that I'm going to show are kids movie clips, but they really paint it well. The first one's from Monsters, Inc. So here goes Monsters, Inc.
I'm telling you, pal, when that wall went up, you should have seen a look on Waternoose's face. I hope we get a copy of that tape. Hey, you all right? Come on, pal, cheer up. We did it. We got Boo home. Oh, sure, we put the factory in the toilet, and, gee, hundreds of people will be out of work now. Not to mention the angry mob that'll come after us when there's no more power, but hey, at least we had some laughs, right? Huh? Hey, thanks a lot. I'll be here all week. Remember to tip your waitresses.
Great job, Mikey. You filled your quota on the first kid of the day.
Not bad, huh? You know, only somebody with perfect comedic timing could produce this much energy in one shot.
Uh-huh. And the fact that laughter is 10 times more powerful than scream had nothing to do with it.
All right, so that is employing alternative logistics. They were supposed to make the kids scream to generate power, and then they realized, hey, laughter is actually way better. So what if we just made the kids laugh instead? And so that's kind of what using alternative logistics looks like. We've got to rethink this. We've got to flip this around. All the stuff that our neighbors are doing, or that other families from our kids' school are doing, our family just may not look like that. And in order to help the kiddo in our house build resilience, in order to help them process well, we're going to have to re-examine and reevaluate exactly what our family is going to look like right now. And maybe this is just for a short time, maybe this is long term. But if you want to prioritize their ability to build resilience, sometimes you just have to start thinking outside the box and doing things a little bit differently. So brainstorming, just throwing out any idea that you can. Think outside the box when it comes to meeting needs, building resilience, and consider every possible idea based off of what the kiddos in your home need. Redefine things. Let your ideal family scenario go and define things according to the needs of the children in your home now. Go meta. Interrogate the reasons for the preconceived ideas. Have ideas about your ideas. Interrogate the reasons for the preconceived ideas you have in the first place. See if it leads to a better way of operating. So challenging. Why do we want to do this? Why do we believe that this is like what a good family does? Where does that idea come from, and how might we go about doing things a little bit differently based on the needs of the kids in our home? And then communicate. Let the children in your home know why adjustments are made, how long they'll be in place, the benefits, etc. Because whenever you make a major shift, it's obviously really important to communicate, but it's extremely critical to say we're doing this because we really believe that this is going to be helpful. We're doing this because we care deeply about what has happened to you. We care deeply about how you're going to manage this, and we want to help you through it. Obviously, these are going to have to be very age-appropriate conversations, but being willing to communicate, we're doing this because we think this is best. And so employing those alternative logistics can help build a lot of resilience. So we have been through crafting normalcy. We have been through affirming identity anchors. We have been through sharing resources. And now we have been through using alternative logistics, which, if you're keeping score at home, brings us to number 5. Number 5 is foreground positivity. So background negativity, foreground positivity. But as you'll see here in this blurb, backgrounding negativity is not the same thing as ignoring or repressing hardship. Foregrounding positivity is not the same as being naive or Pollyanna. Instead, a conscious effort is made to acknowledge the hardship while focusing the lens on positive, productive action. So this is sense making with resilience in mind. And I would say that out of all 5 of these, this one to me is the one that just hits the nail on the head the best, because really what resilience is about is that idea of sense making. Not that a kid has to fully understand why their parents did what they did, or why the state made the decision that the state made. They don't have to fully understand all the ramifications of it, all the nuance of it, but they have to have a way in their mind of it making sense in the context of their life. How did this happen? How did I get from point A to point B? How did I go from living at home with mom to living in this stranger's house? Something about that has to make sense. And as long as there is no sense to it, resilience is just out of the question. And the processing and the dealing with trauma is out of the question. And so this has to be an exercise in sense making. And obviously, again, I've said this a couple times already, but this is going to have to be age-appropriate sense making. It's going to be really difficult to explain to some children why foster care is a reality in their life. But the more we can do that, the more we can help them make sense. It's going to be important. In the process of doing that, though, we have to acknowledge the negative. We have to acknowledge the bad feelings. But then we have to foreground, so put into the forefront, put on the front burner. We have to foreground the positivity. And there's a really great clip from the movie Inside Out that demonstrates this perfectly. So here goes that.
Oh, the stuffed animal Hall of Fame! My rocket! Wait, Riley and I were still using that rocket. It still has some song power left. Who's your friend who likes to play? No, you can't take my rocket to the top. Riley and I are going to the moon. Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster. Hey, Bing Bong, look at this. Oh, here's a fun game. You point to the train station and we all go there. Won't that be fun? Come on, let's go to the train station.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time, we had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
How did you do that?
I don't know. He was sad, so I listened to what...
Hey! There's the train!
Oh, we made it! We're finally gonna get home! Oh no, these facts and opinions look so similar.
Ah, don't worry about it. Happens all the time.
All right. In case it's not completely obvious, what's so powerful and what's so poignant, especially about this point from that clip, is the way Sadness just goes and sits beside. I can't remember the name now. Oh man, I am not on my A game here tonight. But the way she just sits beside him, whereas Joy is trying to just be happy. Hey, look at me, look at my funny face. Hey, what if we play a game? Hey, come on, tickle, tickle, tickle. Sadness just sits there and says, man, everything's gone, and acknowledges it. So that's part of the backgrounding negativity. It's not the same as ignoring or repressing hardship. She's acknowledging something bad happened. Man, I really don't know what it's like to be in foster care. I bet that's really hard. I've never had to spend this much time away from my mom whenever I was a kid. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Being able to acknowledge the negativity is really critical, but we can't dwell on that. In the same way, we can't ignore it, though. We can't welcome them into the home. Christina and I talk about this sometimes too, and I know we've shared it in our class before, where the first time kiddos came to our house when we were foster parents, they happened to be 3 of our adopted sons now. But when they got there, we were so excited because we had been working toward this for so long. And when they came in, we were like, hey, you want to come play with toys? You want a snack? Hey, come on in. And man, that's definitely like top of the list when we think about what would we go back and change. That would be the number one thing we would go back and do differently. We would sit with the difficult and the negative for a little while. And Sadness really gives a clear picture of what that looks like. But then she foregrounds the positivity. She didn't just dwell on that. She said, I bet you and Riley had a lot of great adventures. And he said, yeah. And she said, I bet Riley loved that. Yeah. And so she's not dismissing anything. She's not ignoring anything, but she's also not she's not trying to quickly move on. She's putting the entire context into one picture. Yeah, there's hard, but there's also good. So if we foreground the good, we have the resilience to keep going. And that's probably one of the best gifts that we can give to the kids in our home, is foregrounding the good. So we have to acknowledge with that first one there, we have to acknowledge there has to be honest dialogue when possible about the hardship experience, and negativity must be legitimized. I know you've been through a really hard time, and I'm so sorry for that. We have to have that as part of the conversation. And reframe things. Assist the child in understanding their situation in ways that help them learn, grow, and become resilient. Yes, this is really hard. What do you think we need to do to help this not be so hard? I can tell already that you've got a great sense of humor. Do you want to go watch a movie and maybe try to laugh for a little while? What's something that you love to do with your mom? I bet that was really great. What if we go do that right now and talk about your mom while we do it? Reframing things to help them with resilience is really critical. Set goals. Help the child see that their life still continues to move forward despite hardship. So set goals to keep a future focus. That's one of the most critical parts of resilience is I recognize that there is a future that is actually not necessarily connected to this. Or if it is connected, this moment is not necessarily going to continuously inform every other moment in my life. There's going to be moments where I'm far beyond this moment in my life. And so helping to set goals. And if it's not setting goals, maybe even just talking about the future, get a calendar out. Hey, next weekend, we're going to go do this thing. What if we have a countdown for it? Or whatever that looks like for the kids in your home, but helping them have a future focus can be really critical. And then empowering them, avoid rescuing the child from themselves, give them the tools to be successful in a sense of pride in their own accomplishments. We don't bail them out. We don't just immediately scoop them up whenever they're sad and say, here, eat some ice cream and let's all feel better and ignore it. But empower them. What does this feel like right now? What helps you whenever you feel this way? And helping them to what's the word that I'm looking for? Helping them to understand their own emotional and mental struggles so that they can help themselves whenever they fall into it. There's a word that I was looking for to say all that. I don't know what that is. Okie doke. So that is number 5, ladies and gentlemen. We have been through all 5. So in summary, resilience is the ability to bounce back after hardship. Children in foster care experience a great deal of hardships that most children never have to navigate and therefore require additional intentional interventions to help them overcome disruption and loss. So remember to apply the 5 principles of resilience: crafting normalcy, affirm identity anchors, share networks and resources, and use alternative logistics and foreground positivity. So that is the conclusion of our presentation. Yeah, it's not letting me go forward anymore. So I'm going to stop share. So I hope that was really helpful and at least maybe get you thinking. My hope, as with all of our classes, is that you hear at least 1 or 2 things that you're like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense for the kids in our home. We recognize that everything we say probably isn't applicable 100% of the time, but hopefully you hear a few things that you hold on to and you apply those to your home and with your kiddos. Okay, so the next thing you're going to see after I stop talking, the next thing you're going to see is a slide with a link to the quiz. And again, you're not going to be able to click that link, so you're just going to have to like type it into your URL bar. But it won't be complicated, I promise. So once you fill out the quiz from this presentation, again, we'll get the email saying that you've done that, and then we'll send you a link for the evaluation, and then you complete the evaluation, and then we send you your CEU certificate. So hopefully that's all very clear. And yeah, let us know in the evaluation, like I said at the beginning, let us know in the evaluation how this goes, whether you like this format or not, or if you prefer live classes, if this is a little bit more convenient, whatever it might be. So we look forward to hearing from you, and we'll see you soon.